2 minutes. Oh, hello Lindsay, hello. Hello Bex. Oh, I've got a few people watching, that's nice. So I did put in the event that you, to cut your cords in advance, so I hope you've all done that. You need 6 cords. I'm using 2 different colours to help teach you, but you can do it in just one colour, do it in more colours, up to you. But you need 6 cords, all cut to 3 meters long, and that's 18 meters altogether. So 6 cords, each one 3 meters. So I hope you've got your cords all cut ready. If you haven't got your cords, then get cutting. I always like to measure like from one arm and then down the other arm, and then a little bit extra, so about half again. And that seems to be about the right length. I don't really like to do it with a tape measure, but I have put tape measurements there because I do realise that they are a little bit easier to understand than just telling everyone to do it one of my arm lengths. So make sure you've got your cords ready, and it's going to be a lot of this in the video of me getting a bit tangled in knots and then untangling myself. That's just part of the experience of watching these live workshops. I'm afraid they're not that slick, but that's what we love about it. Human errors and all that makes it a bit more fun. So just make sure all your cords are pretty much even. I think mine have got a little bit uneven, so I'm just making sure all the ends kind of end in the same sort of place. And I'm going to find the middle of my cords. So if you're just joining us, I'm saying make sure you've got 6 cords. Each cord should be 3 meters long. 6 cords, each cord 3 meters long. You're going to double them over. So you've got a loop at one end and all the ends at the other. So you have 12 cords hanging down. So we've got a loop up here and 12 cords hanging down. I'm using 2 colours to help teach you, but if you're doing it, you can just use one colour, that's no problem. It's just a bit more obvious when I'm showing you all the knots to have 2 colours ready, okay? So if you're starting off with a wooden curtain ring, which is quite a traditional way to start it, it's not how I'm going to start it because I realise a lot of you might not have wooden curtain rings, but if you do, I wanted to just show you how to do that. You're just going to put it on each thread like that, create a loop at one end, and just really simple, loop it around like that. And then you add each of your threads onto your wooden curtain ring individually like that as you go along. But that is only applicable if you're using a wooden curtain ring, which I'm not going to. So there we go. So we're going to start off with all our threads at the top like this, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you first a knot of how to bind all these together. Now this is quite a simple way of doing it. You can of course do a much simpler, you can just do a standard knot where you just do like a big around like that and go through. So if this seems a bit complicated, don't worry about it. I would use for this, you just need a really short bit, about 12 inches, something like that. If you haven't got any extra thread, you can use even less. You can just use a little bit like that. Just cut it off the ends of one of the long ones because you probably won't use all this length. But if you have got just a little bit of thread lying around or some other thread, then I would recommend using that. Right, to do this knot, I'm going to get it wrong now. So you are going to take it and you're going to double it back on itself like that. So you've created a loop at this end here and you've got a long bit hanging down there. You're going to place the loop about just where you want your knotting to, where you want this knot to finish. So just under this loop you're creating to hang it from. Does that make sense? Hope I'm making sense. Don't worry, I'll show you again. You've got your little end dangling, both your ends dangling down here, and you've got your loop there. There we go. You can see that a bit better maybe. So then holding all these threads quite tightly together in this hand. Yep, 6 threads, 3 meters, Lindsay, perfect. And then you double them over so you have 12 hanging down. Okay, so I'm going to get this little thread here for wrapping around, and I'm going to start wrapping. And you want to get this as tight as you can manage. So if you kind of wrap it round and then pull on it, each time you come round, it's going to get nice and tight. And these tensions, it's all practice. So if you find the first one you do might be a bit loose, don't worry about it. Just try next time and I'm sure you'll get the right tension. So once you've wrapped it around, you get to the top. So we've ut this little loop here, which is the same string that I've been wrapping round. So I've been wrapping it back round over itself. So I'm going to put this end, put this end through the loop. That make sense? Don't worry, if you miss a step, this video is going to be like saved, so you can go back and rewatch bits of it. And you can, then when it's been saved, you can pause me and rewind me and fast forward me, whatever you need to do. Obviously when it's live, it's not quite that simple. So then you pull on this end that's sticking out here. I've just done that without showing you. So we've put this end through the loop that's at the top. See? And then we just pull on this end here to pull that loop back down. So the cord is inside that bit of wrapping. So we've created a nice little bit of a knot there, which holds it all in place. And then these two loose ends here, we can just snip them off. Wood, I don't know, it's not a lot of time, so I'm not going to go back over that in too much detail. I will just go over how you set it up one more time and then move on. Okay, so set it up. It is an extra piece, Lindsay, but it can be a really short piece, just like a little 7-incher. And it can just come off one of your 3 meter pieces if you don't have any extra thread. Yeah, that's a good idea, Emma. I think watching live is great, and then you can make it later, because that way more of it sinks in. So if you are trying to make it live with me now, then what we've done, we've just doubled a bit of thread over like that, maybe even a little bit more so because this one's shorter. You just lie it along your other threads. You go wrap, 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 wrap. I'm just going quite quickly here to show you how you lay it all out. You go through this little loop at the top that you've created and wrapped around, and then you pull this bit at the bottom to pull the ends back inside each other. Okay, and it should look something like this. Now I'm just going to trim off these little ends that are sticking out. Keep it quite tidy as I go along. Right, here we go. So I've got my loops and I've got my wrapped bit. Now the next thing to do is to divide your threads into 3 lots of 4. So I'm using the 2 colours to help teach you. So in each lot of 4, I'm going to have 2 of the dark colour and 2 of the pale colour. If you're using all one colour, then I just go for the threads that sort of seem like they naturally go together if they're near each other. But I'm using special colours, so I'm going for 2 dark and 2 pale in each bit. I'm going to put those ones over there. So I now have in front of me 4 threads. I'm just going to adjust the camera angle so you can see a bit better what I'm doing, less than my face, okay? I just feel weird starting the videos without you getting to say hello to me. So I'm just going to move the camera angle down so it's pointing at the table. Please shout out, so the knotting can be a bit confusing. Please shout out if you want me to go over anything again, if you aren't getting it, if you need me to repeat it. For this hanger, we're just going to use the Chinese square knot. This knot's made up of 2 parts. It's quite straightforward, but it does take some practice, and getting the tension right can be a little bit tricky. if we have time at the end of this video, I might show you another couple of knots, but I think we're probably just going to stick to the 1 knot today. And I've got a bracelet making workshop in 2 weeks where we're going to cover some different knots as well. So to know just the Chinese square knot. First thing you're going to do is you've got 2 in the middle, 2 on the outside. At the end of one of the ones on the outside, I want you to put a little knot in. And that reminds you that this one always goes first. Doesn't matter which side the one with the knot in the end is on, it always goes first. Okay, it's the leader, the others follow. I'm going to start off with a section of decorative knotting, and I'm not going to put this at the top. I'm going to put this sort of in the middle of the hanging bit. So you've got to think about how long you want your basket to be, what space it's going to be in. But I'm going to make mine fairly short because I've only got a short drop for my hanging plant. So I'm going to put my decorative knotting in about here. So that's about 8 inches down. But again, you can put your decorative knotting, if you're going to do a big bit of decorative knotting, you can put it higher. If you're going to do a little bit, you can put it lower. It's decorative, doesn't really matter where you put it. Oh my gosh, I'm not even talking you through what I'm doing, am I? Bad teacher. Okay, so undo that. I've put a knot in the end. Okay, let's go from there. The knot's in the end. The one with the knot in the end goes under the middle. So it's going under the middle 2 threads. Then it goes on top of this thread at the side. Obviously, I'm doing this facing me, so it's going to be reversed for you. So that might be a little bit confusing. I'll do a few knots and then maybe I'll come around and do it the other side, but it gets a bit tricky when I can't see the camera to make sure I'm getting everything in shot. Oh, I'm not telling you what I'm doing again. So you go over the top of the one on this side, then you pick up the one on this side and you go back through this loop. Then you're just going to pull your 2 strings until all 4 strings are the same length. So this knot should be where you want it to be at the correct length, and all 4 strings are the same sort of tightness. They've got a bit of slack in them because you can't pull this knot that tight until you've added the second knot. So now I'm picking up my one with the knot on it. So you remember the one with the knot on always goes first. Doesn't matter which side it is on, it always goes first. So the one with the knot on the end goes under the middle 2. It goes over the one at the side. We pick up the one that it's on top of, the other side, and we go back through this loop. And we're going to pull that tight towards us to the top. Now when we tighten that up, we just need to have a little look because we want to make sure that all these threads stay the same tension. As you get better at this, you'll kind of do this stuff automatically, but I'm just making a point of it at the video because obviously this might be your first time doing these knots. So you can kind of loosen your knots up, make sure you've got the right tension that you want, and then pull it tight again. Pull those middle 2 down a bit, pull them back up. You can get that tension just right. Don't worry if they do look a bit like untight taut, because when you've got your plant hanging in them, it will pull them tight. So if they look a bit slack together, don't worry about that too much. It's just if they are uneven that you've got to worry. So I've done 2 knots there. And I'm thinking here I'm going to do like 4 knots, so they should be even numbers because each knot is only half a knot, if that makes sense. So that is technically 1 knot, but I'm going to call it 2 because it's like 2 movements. So 4 knots, then I'm going to add a bead on, then I'm going to do another 4 knots, then I'm going to do the decorative knotting on the other side. And I'm going to turn it round now, and I'm hoping I'm going to do it backwards and you're going to see it the right way round. And hopefully this will work for you guys. And hopefully I won't mess it up. Okay, so that's the right way round for you now. So this is how, so you'd be sitting here, this is how your knotting would look. You'd take the one with the knot on the end, so the one that always starts and always goes underneath. It goes underneath the middle 2. Oh, it's making its own knot there. So underneath the middle 2. Then it goes over the one at the side, like that. Then you pick up the one at the side and go back through this big loop. And we're just going to pull that tight. These knots aren't easy, but we're going to do quite a lot of them. So don't worry if you're not getting it straight away. Just keep practicing and undoing it until you get it right, and we will keep doing these knots, and you can just catch up with the project as you go along. So we've gone under the middle two, over the one at the side. So if you think about it, it's like you've made a whale. Can you see there's the body of the whale? Here's the tail of the whale. So then you get the tail of the whale and it pokes the whale in the eye. So it goes top to bottom, so underneath that loop. And then we get the two sides, pull it up tight to the top, and there we go. We've got 4 knots. So I said 4 knots and then a bead, didn't I? So I've got these nice big wooden plain beads. If you haven't got any beads, don't worry. Just keep doing knots. Just do a little decorative panel of knots here. Don't need a bead. I've just got one and I'm going to use it. So if you're working with beads, this is the time to use your bead. These ones have lovely big holes, so I'm hoping I can just thread them on. Oh yeah, I think that's going to be all right. If your beads have got smaller holes, you can put a bit of tape around the end of your cords to make them pointy so you can get them through the beads. So slide the bead up to my knotting. Move my cords back onto the table so you can see what I'm doing. I seem all right at doing it upside down, so if you guys, this is easier for you guys to learn, I'm sure, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. So you slid the bead up to the top of the knotting, and then the one with the knot in the middle, you go under the middle, you go over the one at the side, you pick up the one at the side, and you go back through the loop, and then you're going to pull that tight again, and pull that up to the top. So I don't know if all you guys know, but we've got a little craft group going on. It's called Get Creative on Facebook, and the idea is it's a really lovely community and a place to share photos of the work you do in these sessions. So, and for me to tell you about great resources and other online workshops you can do. So make sure you are a member of that group so you can show me photos of your amazing macrame plant hangers, because I am super excited to see what you guys made. It just makes it so nice seeing your finished pieces, makes it all worthwhile. I'll just go over the knot again. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, over the one at the side. I'm going to pick up the one at the side and then go back through this loop. Let's do that and pull that tight. So I'm going to do 4 knots again, so I'm just checking how many I've done. So this is the 3rd one, and then this will be the 4th. So the one with the knot in the end. So the one with the knot in the end is switching sides. Just remember that, but it's always the one with the knot in the end that goes first. It goes under the middle, it goes over this loop, I pick up this one and go back through that loop. Pull it up to the top, give it a tug, and that is my little bit of decorative knotting done. I'm going to keep my decorative knotting quite short because I want to get on, but you, of course, can make, you've got enough thread here. I've made this project, so if you want to do quite a big panel of decorative knotting, you've got plenty of thread to do it, so don't worry about that. So when you're doing the next one, you want to crucially make sure your decorative knotting happens in the same place or it will look weird. So put them down together, get your 2 white ones or whatever colour it is you're using. Get them either side of the 2 middle ones, put a knot at one end. Doesn't matter which one you choose to put the knot at the end of, that's totally your call, I don't mind. That one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, then it goes over this one at the side. So I know it's a bit confusing because I've got this one hanging down here, but it's over this one that's all the way over here. You pick up this one and go back through the loop. Now, while this knot is nice and loose, I'm just going to move it around, try and get it lined up with the top of that bundle. I'm just going to really put a bit of effort into trying to make sure that's in the right place, because that will be the most annoying thing when you've got your hanger hanging up and you're like, oh, that knotting, it's just not in the same place. Although you might embrace that, the wonky hanger is a good look, so you can definitely go for that. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, over the one here, you pick up the one here and you go back through this loop. And I'm just going to pull this one up. So when you pull your second knot up, you may find this first knot moves. So just be ready to wiggle it around a bit, get them in the same place. So the problem, this is all about tension, and tension is really hard. If you haven't done any kind of macrame before, or knitting, or anything where you're working with cords, you probably are going to struggle a bit with getting the tension right the first time. So you can always just get a bit of the cord and just do some practice knotting. There's absolutely no shame in doing a bit of practice knotting. So just practicing going under, over and back through. Make yourself a little bracelet. You just get the hang of this knot, and then you will totally nail your plant hanger, because it can be a little bit daunting to work on a fancy project like this when you're learning a new skill like tying macrame knots. If anyone has any questions about what I'm doing, please do ask. You're all being very quiet, which I hope means you're working really, really hard, and I'm going to get to see loads of gorgeous photos of macrame plant hangers later. You can always send those to the page if you don't want to join the group. I will post a link to the group in the comments for this video, so watch out for that if you aren't already a member, because we love seeing the work that everyone's doing in that group. It's so nice. Everyone is really lovely, really supportive, really creative people, so it's a really nice place to be. So I've slid my bead up, so the one with the knot in the end. Yeah, concentrating hard. Good work, Lindsay. You've got to focus, stay in the game. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, it goes over the second one, you pick up the second one, and you go back through that loop, top to bottom. Now, when you're doing that, I think the best way to think of it is that first knot that comes around the bead, you're not going to tighten it up too much, you're just going to get it nice and even either side of the bead. Then the second knot you do, so the second half of the knot, over I should say, that's when you're going to tighten it up. So you just pull it through and give it a real good tighten. If you are struggling with this knot, I have got a YouTube tutorial where I make a bracelet and I really break this knot down, and you can see all the details. So just give me a shout, I can send you a link to that video. I can also send you diagrams of how to do the knot if you're more of a diagram person. So please don't feel beaten by it if you're struggling. Like, talk to me, send me a message, and I'll get back to you and give you some pro tips on mastering macrame. One thing I would say is the way I'm doing it here, with it all loose, can be a little bit difficult, and it's a bit easier if you want to. You can use some tape at the top and the bottom, hold it all tight, just have these two worker ones loose, and that'll mean you can it's a bit easier to work. Right, there we go. So that's 2 of them done. Got my 4 decorative knots top and bottom, and I'm moving on to my last 3. Again, with macrame plant hangers, sometimes you have more than 3 hanging down. Sometimes you've got 4 hanging down. Fancy, right? Sometimes you can even have more than that. So this is just a time-saving measure, really. That's why we're doing 3. I think it looks good with 3. 3's my birthday is on the 3rd. 3 is one of my favourite numbers. Everyone knows 3 is the magic number. So 3 is all good, but if you wanted to, all I'm saying is you could do 4. So here we go. We're starting off the next lot. Just get that one round to the front. First things first, I'm going to make a knot on the end of one. The other side this time, crazy, right? Mixing it up. So I put the knot on the side. I'm going to get my 2 in the middle. I'm going to remember I've got to balance it with that side. So I'm just going to run that over there. And then pick up this side. Go back through here. Doesn't look so much like a fish with the first knot. Don't worry, we'll get back to the fish with the second knot. So you're just going to wiggle that knot up until you're happy with the level it's at compared to the other side. Then we're going to go back under, creating that big loop on this side, over the one on this side, pick up this side and go back through this big loop, top to bottom. Pull that nice and tight, then do it again. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, it goes over the one at the side. I'm just going to check I'm happy with that level. Yeah, that level's looking pretty perfect. So over the one at the side, pick up the one at the side and go through that loop, top to bottom. Pull it in, tighten it up. Give it a little tug once you sort of pull it in gently, and then when you get it to the other threads, give it a tug, and then it will end up nice and even. And the last one before the bead, under the middle two, over this one, pick up this one, back through the loop. Give it a nice pull to tighten it up. Nice and tight, give it a little tug, and it's time for the bead. Is everyone getting the hang of that knot okay? Because I've only got 4 more of it to do in this decorative bit, which is really the teaching bit before we move on to making the net that you hang your pot in. And I want to make sure you've learnt it. So maybe we'll do a bit more decorative knotting. We're doing good for time. I'm happy with how the time's going. Last time I did this workshop, the time really got away from me, so I think I'm being a bit more careful this time to sort of plan it out a bit better. Right, go under the middle two, over the side one, pick up the side one and go back through the loop. But if anyone is trying to make this knot right now and is struggling with it, give me a shout. Under the middle two, over the side one and back through the loop. It is this knot you use to make the net that holds the plant holder. So we are going to do some more of this knot to make the net, but obviously when we get to making the net, it's a bit like knot, 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 knot. It's a bit more confusing, a bit more all over the place. So I've got 2 there. I'm going to do 2 more. And then I'm going to think about whether I'm going to add some more decorative knots onto my beautiful plant hanger. I think I'm really going to like it in 2 colours actually. Wasn't sure about it when I thought oh, it'd be easier to teach if it's in 2 colours, but actually I think it's going to look good. Under the middle one, over the side one, pick up the side one and back through the loop. Pull that nice and tight. Right. So, I'm just going to do a few more knots on each of these decorative knotting panels. So just so we can go over and do a few more knots. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, creates a nice loop. I'm going to take this one away now, don't need it there. Got my lengths right. Goes under the middle, over the one at the side. I know it's not going to be symmetrical, crazy, right? Hurts me too. Goes through the loop here, top to bottom. Doesn't have to be symmetrical. It's good. Branching out. So that's one. The one with the knot in the end goes under the middle. Ooh. Goes over the one at the side. You pick up the one from the side, and you go back through that loop and pull it up, keeping it nice and tight. 2, the one with the knot in the end. It goes under the middle, over the one at the side, got the loop here, pick up the end, go back through the loop. Pull it up nice and evenly. When you've got it to the top and you're sure it's even, give it a little tug to tighten it. If you pull it too hard at the beginning, you're going to end up with an uneven knot. So it's pulling it quite gently and then pulling it tight to tighten it. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle 2, it goes over the one at the side. You pick up the one at the side and you go back through the loop. So when I'm teaching people to make the bracelet with this, I quite often use 2 different colours for the side because that can make it even easier to learn. But I didn't want to go totally crazy on my plant hanger, so I'm just going to count how many knots I've got there, because obviously I've lost track. 1, 2, 4. Okay, so I've got 8 knots there now. And looking at it, I think that looks good. So I'm going to do another 4 knots on all my other decorative knotting panels. One thing you've got to watch out for is if you're coming back to a section and you're adding more knots onto the same section, the one with the knot in the end might not be the correct one. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't need a bit more practice? Just keep practicing. You'll get the hang of this knot. It's not too bad once you've learned it. What I do is just set yourself up. Don't worry about making the plant hanger and the structure. Just set yourself up with some bits of string and just practice the knot until you've got the hang of it, and then your plant hanger will be lovely. Or alternatively, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to make a really cheap, quick plant hanger. So you could just wait for that little hack. But I don't want to show you that, how to do that first, because you might not watch this whole video, you know what I mean? So I've got the knot on the end, going under the middle, over the one at the side, you pick up the one at the side, go back through that loop, pull it up to the top, give it a little tug to tighten it. So the one with the knot in the end, it goes under the middle, it goes over the other side one, you pick up the side one, and you go back through the loop. I'm going to pull that tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The one with the knot in the end goes under the middle. It goes over the one at the side. We pick up the one with the side and go back through the loop, pulling it tight. And I think this is the last one, under the middle, over the one at the side, pick up the one at the side and go back through the loop. Pull it up to the top and pulling it tight. Okay, so we've got our decorative knotting panel there, and finally, so when you come back to doing your knotting, it's important to check that the one you're going to put underneath is the correct one. So the one with the knot in the end is the correct one to go underneath, because you might have flipped it the other way up and then it would be the wrong one to go underneath. So the way to check it's the correct one to go underneath is if you look at the knots you've got here, one side's got a little loop on it. Let me do a little close up to the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So you see this little loop? So it's the opposite side from the one with a little loop in it that's going to go underneath. So the one that's coming up from the bottom is then going to go to the bottom, okay? And I have got this the right way up, so it is the side with the knot on the end. But that's just a little tip if you're going back to your knotting. But I mean, you've probably been much more organised than me, and you've planned out, you've done all your knotting in one go. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle, goes over the one at the side, we pick up the one at the side, go back through the loop. Pull that up to the top. One with the knot in the end goes under the middle, over the one at the side, we pick up the one at the side and go back through that loop. Pull that up to the top, and then one last time, the one in the knot in the end. Not one last time, two more times. Is it 2 more times? Yeah, 2 more times. The knot in the end goes under the middle, this one goes over. I do really think I can't count and craft. It's my brain, something about doing the craft really gets in the way of the counting. What are you saying there, Sarah? Yes, Sarah, it will be available to watch later. Yep, it's just going to stay up on our page so you can watch it at any point, no problem. So the one goes under the middle, over the one at the side, pick up the one at the side and goes back through the loop. And then we're going to pull that up and pull it tight. Okay, so that's all the knotting. And everyone else, it will be available to watch later. You can, I mean, watch it now with me live, definitely, because you might have some questions you can ask, but if you want to come back to it later, you can fast forward, rewind, go back through all the stages. So there are my 3 bits of decorative knotting, one on each string of my plant hanger. Now, the next thing to do is choose a pot. So I've got this basket here that I'm going to use. This basket's going to be my pot. And you've got to think a bit about the size of pot you're going to use when you do the knotting to make the net which your basket's going to sit in. The first knots, it doesn't matter so much because they're just going to be like down here. They're the start of your netting and they're just happening these 4 threads. It'll be the ones after those that you've got to think about what you're doing. But I'm just showing you where we are. So at the start of your netting, it's going to be the white ones going around the blue ones again. And it's going to be just 2 of the knots that we've just done in this decorative knotting panel. So one whole knot, as it were, 2 halves. So going under the middle, over the one at the side, pick up the one at the side and go back through the loop. I'm going to pull it tight, decide where we want the top of the basket to sit, or the pot. Pull it tight and then do our second one. So the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle. It goes over the one at the side. I'm going to pick up the one at the side and go back through that loop. I'm going to pull it up. There we go. Nice. Make sure those threads are all even, those 4 threads. You don't want to be longer on one side than the other. You can kind of wiggle those knots around to get your tension correct. Don't worry if they're doing that saggy thing, because when we've got the plant hanger hanging in them, it's going to really weigh them down. Oh, Lindsay, you keep messing up the last one. I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. It's all just practice. I mean, you've probably already got the hang of it now. I think that message was from a few minutes ago. Don't worry, you're going to nail this. It's just practice, like anything else. So again, we're going to leave this one out because we want to make sure we get these in the same place, lined up. The one with the knot in the end goes under, it goes over this one. We're going to pick up this one at the side and go back through the loop. Down, make sure these 2 are lined up. Just make sure, just check that out. Okay, so they look lined up enough. These knots, it matters slightly less if they're a bit less lined up because you see it a bit less, but you still want them to be lined up. That's it, it's better lined up. Okay, over the side, you pick up the one at the side and go back through that loop. Pull up the second knot, gently, 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 and then when you get to the top, tighten it up. Check that they are the same length still, because in that tightening process it can sometimes, and you can just pull on those 2, create a little bit of extra slack if you want. So there we go, there's 2 done, and it's time for the third one. This one hangs down here. So when you're starting off your new knotting, doesn't matter which side your knot with the knot on the end is on, so don't worry about that. When you start a section of new knotting, that really doesn't matter. Knot on the end goes under the middle, it goes over this one, pull this one back through, and then make sure they are all lined up. When you've done this a few times, it all gets so much easier, but I know probably right now you can't get your knots in the right place for the life of you. But you just practice, and it's just all about tension. Can't really, tension's just something you learn. If you're doing knitting or crocheting, you probably, oh, wrong string. If you're doing knitting or crocheting, you'll probably be good at tension straight away because you're used to working with threads and like feeling their tensions. But if you haven't worked with threads much, then you may struggle to get the tension right. Oh, I've just made a mistake there. So I put the wrong side underneath that time because I didn't listen to my own rule. This is a mistake you might make. You might put the one without a knot underneath. You always got to put the one with a knot underneath. Yeah, Lindsay, I think there's nothing, making a macrame plant hanger in an hour is ambitious, and I think you've got to have done it before. So I think there's no shame in rewatching this video, even a couple of times. And it's good to be able to pause and rewind. So the one with the knot in the end is the one that goes underneath. It goes over the side, pick up the side one, go back through that loop. So we now have, just get this right, get this finished. We now have our 4 knots, our 2 knots even, our three threads, 2 knots in each thread, blah, blah, blah. Woohoo! That's the short version. Now, make sure they weigh up, they are happiest, so that looks best. For me, that's more important because I've got the 2 colours and I want them to hang nicely. So I'm just going to fiddle with that a bit, but that's probably not such a big deal if you're just using 1 colour, so don't really worry about. But you want them not to be too twisted, so make sure they're hanging from the top like they would hang down, how you would want them to hang down, if that makes sense. Hope it makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take 2 of these sections and I'm going to divide them. I'm going to split them. So I'm going to take 2 from one side, put them over there, 2 from the other side, put them over there, and then I'm going to be working with these 4. So the white ones are going to be in the middle now, and the blue ones are going to be doing the knotting. That makes sense, everyone? So this is the stage where the size of the pot you want to put in it comes into play. It doesn't matter too much, so as long as you're just making a general potty size, I shouldn't worry too much about measuring your pot. I'm just saying the word pot a lot now, aren't I? But you will notice if you make it too small that you can't fit your pot in. So I'm going to say, because I'm using quite a big pot, I want to see quite a big gap here, probably about 6 inches. That might even be a little bit small. I'm going to leave myself a little bit more like 8 inches. I'm going to take the end of one of the blue ones, I'm going to put a knot in it. So I know that's the one that goes underneath, doesn't matter which side it's on. I'm going to put it under the 2 white ones. Make sure these 2 knots stay level up here, because again, if they get out of sync, that will be annoying for you. Then this end one goes under and through that loop. A-do-do-do. And then the one with the knot in the end goes under the middle. This is actually a thicker thread than the white one because I didn't have the same colour in the same, I mean different colours in the same thickness. So these knots might look a bit different, but that's just because it's a thicker thread. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try and tighten it up quite gently. But what you can kind of do if is like almost you can pull all 4 threads at the same time. And that can work quite well as a way, actually, that's pretty excellent. Might use that as a new teaching technique. Pull all 4 threads at the same time, and then you should end up with the tension about right. So just check that those 2 line up. You might need to play around with your knot a bit more. Get it nice and tight, get it nice and tense. Okay, and it all lines up. Beautiful. So now I've got, that's that bit done. Now I'm going to move on to using these 2. So I'm going to get these 2 down, and I'm going to bring over these 4 here. So I'm going to take these 2 and put them with these 2, and these 2 can go over to the side. So it's like the 2 closest together, if that makes sense. I think it does make sense. When you're looking at it, it'll make sense to you. So I'm going to get the end of one of my threads, I'm going to put a knot in it. I'm going to go under the middle 2, over this one at the side, pick up this side one, and go back through the loop. Now this one's falling off the table, so I need to make sure it's all nicely lined up, or I'll be sorry. Make sure this one's not too twisted. That's all right. Oh my God, it's all a mess. Okay, so make sure that's, so the next thing to do here, so you want to make sure these 2 are lined up and then line this one up with this one. Okay, Makes sense? Lots of lining up to be done here. Just do my second knot, the one with the knot goes under the middle, goes over the side one, pick up the side one, go back through the loop. I'm going to tighten that up. Try and get the right sort of tension there, so it's fairly even, and then pull on all four at the same time. This would probably be a bit easier if all my threads were the same thickness. Okay, so you might see here that this knot is actually a bit lower than that knot. Not ideal. Haha, not. I'm just going to pull on those two little loops to tighten it back up, pull on these ends to make these a bit shorter, and just generally fiddle around with it until it's where I want it. How am I doing for time? Doing good. I think this video is going to be the perfect amount of time, I hope. Because I haven't had my dinner yet and I'm hungry. How about you? Did you guys have anything nice for dinner? Anyone else hungry? Anyone else got anything nice planned for dinner? Tell me your dinner plans, make my mouth water. Okay, so we've done two. So now what we've got to do is these two remaining ones, they're going to go together. So now we've created a web. I think if you can see, all three hanging down, create a bit of a net like that. Do you see? I think so. So we'll put those two off to the side. And we've got these four in the middle now. So put a knot in the end of this one. So a knot in the end of this side one. And then it's going to go under these middle two. Goes over the other blue one. Pick up the blue one. Go back through that loop. Do the other side, the other way. So the knot goes under the middle. And goes over this side one. This side one goes back through. Pick it up. Pull it up tight. Okay, so then we're just going to bring down one of these other sections of knotting and check that that is in fact the correct place for it. So this is one of the, you know, when you're doing this bit, it's really just about having a good old mess around with it until you get it in the right place. This, I mean, it looks annoying and it is annoying, but you just got to fiddle with it and faff with it until it is in the right place. If this is driving you crazy, I'm going to show you a little cheat for doing this bit. And then I'm going to, in a minute, when I show you how to do a cheap macrame plant hanger. So now, hang them all down. Make sure all your knots are roughly in the same place. It's handmade, so I shouldn't beat yourself up too much if they're not quite in the same place. You ran out of thread. Did you do a really big section of decorative knotting? Yeah, can't do too big a section of decorative knotting or you will run out of thread. I'm sorry, I should have maybe made that clearer. There's some things, when you've done something before, there's some things you don't think to mention. So now I'm just going to put my netting over my basket. So I've got all three hanging down like that. And put all three in there for now. And I'm just going to turn over the basket that I'm planning to use. Oh good, it had stuff in it, that's good. And just look at roughly where I want to put my knot in, so the pot's at the right height. So I can see I want to do it about 6 inches down from my knot. So now I can clear all that stuff off the table, clean that up later. Get rid of that. Right, so I've got all my, okay, back on camera. So I've got all my knots. I'm going to do about 6 inches down like that. And You can just do like a really standard knot. Like I was saying, you could do at the top if you didn't fancy doing the one where you wrap it round. Just do a standard knot like that to finish it off, go back through itself. Like a knot like that. Everyone knows that knot, I think. Or you can do, you've got a few different options. I'm going to do a knot like I did at the top. Now I've got all these lovely, lovely extra long traily bits that I definitely don't need that much trail. So I'm just going to steal one of them to do this bit with. I think I'm going to do it in white again because I did that at the top, and I think it'd be nice to have it white wrapped at the bottom like I did at the top. Now it is important to cut the bit you're going to use off. You could just use it still attached, but I think it would be more annoying than not. So make sure all those bottom knots are fairly well lined up. Work out where you're going to put your knots, and then we're going to do like we did at the top. We're going to double it over itself, make a little loop, and we're going to wrap it round. Really, really nice and tight. Wrap it round and round and round. Poke it through the little loop, and then pull on the little tail that's sticking out to get it, pull the ends back in itself. Cut those little bits that are hanging off. I mean, you could use a little bit of glue on those ends, but honestly, the knots will hold it in place just fine. And then I'm just going to double check that my basket fits in there nicely. This is usually the embarrassing bit of the workshop where what I've done totally hasn't worked. Oh, I'm joking. Am I joking? That has happened, obviously. Right, so there we go. There we have it. My macrame plant hanger. You can obviously, this one is quite a simple one. You can do more netting, more layers of netting. You can bring them back together. You can make, especially if you've got more hanging down from the top, then you can make the net quite detailed. But this is a simple, quick project. I'm off the camera now, aren't I? You can see I've got my decorative knot. I've got my loop at the top to hang it on. I've got my decorative knotting. I've got my netting to hold the basket up. And then I've got all these nice ends here. So I'd either finish them, if I were you, by trimming them off and adding a bead on each end, or you can trim them off, just leave a tassel. You can trim them off, tie a knot in each end. That looks quite nice if you haven't got any beads. That looks great. So I promised you a cheap, dirty macrame plant hanger, and I'm going to show you now how to do a real quick, cheap one. So what you're going to do, I'm going to keep this one quite small. We're going to cut about 1 meter long pieces. So 3 pieces, they're all about 1 meter long. Oh, there my cord goes. Is that right? 3 pieces. God, I've got a brain freeze. It's not 3 pieces, 6 pieces. Is it 6 pieces? 3 pieces. 3 pieces, because then you have 6 pieces hanging down. Sorry guys, going nuts. Right, so you've got your 6 pieces hanging down. Hope you all didn't listen to that and you're all happily doing your knotting. Didn't notice me just having a little hiccup there. You tie them all together in a knot, so you've got your little loop to hang them off of. There we go. Then you go down, there's no decorative knotting on this one, and then where you want to start hanging your pot, you just tie them all together. And you're just using a really simple knot, like the kind of knot. So this is going to make a really small one as well, but you can make these bigger too. So it's just like a kind of knot you do like that, you tie them together, and you do that all the way round. Make sure that knot is in the same place. This is a great way as well to see how you make a macrame plant hanger without actually having to do all the macrame knot work. just to see how the structure of a macrame plant hanger works. So those three all get knotted together here. Then, just like with a macrame plant hanger, we split those and we knot them together a little bit lower. And then we do that this side as well. If you guys haven't joined yet, look out for the group. It's called Get Creative. It's got access, it's got loads of resources. Well, it's just started, but there's going to be loads of resources on there. We're doing a giveaway on there, so there's a kit you can win to do an embroidery. It's really, really nice. Everyone's really friendly. It's a great place for sharing photos of stuff you've made recently, maybe that you've made in these workshops. So if you haven't joined the Get Creative group, please join that. I'll pop a link in the comments after this is finished. There we go. So then you just put a big knot at the bottom. I haven't got a little bowl to show you how this all works, but you'll see the idea of it when it's done. It's exactly like the other one, but takes about 2 minutes to make. And obviously is nowhere near as pretty, but that's a way to make a really simple, quick macrame plant hanger. So that's a cheat. Make the proper ones, guys. But if you do just make a quick one, I still want to see a photo. I want to see a photo of your beautiful plant in your beautiful plant hanger, however you've made it. I'm just going to put the camera back up so I can say goodbye to you properly, and you don't have to just look at my belly while I'm talking to you. Not the best with this tripod, I'll be honest. Right, guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed making the macrame plant hanger and it hasn't been too much of a challenge. Please join the group Get Creative so we can share photos of what we made in these workshops. I've got a couple more workshops coming up. So next week I'm doing mosaic here. So we're doing mosaic, that'll be loads of fun. The week after on Shop in the Square, we're doing macrame bracelets, so you can use some of the knots we've learnt tonight, and I'm going to teach you some other knots that you could then use in new plant hangers. So it's going to be a nice sort of follow on from this workshop. So if you are thinking I'd like to try a bit more macrame, or I need a little bit more time to learn these knots, come to that live session in 2 weeks and we'll do more macrame knots. Then over on my studios page at Studio Name, this Saturday I'm doing a tie-dye workshop, which is going to be so much fun, and I'm going to do some ice dyeing as well, which is, oh my god, I've just done it for the first time this week and it is so beautiful. The ice dyeing looks amazing. So check out that workshop on Saturday. All the details for that will be in the Get Creative group, so you can definitely, if you join that, you can see what's going on. Then I've also got the following Saturday I'm doing a basket weaving workshop, so you could, again, like, it's quite advanced basket weaving, it's advanced craft. So this is a basket that I wove, and this is the kind of thing we'll be covering in the workshop, so you'd be very welcome to join me for that as well. All of these are free, they're all on Facebook, they're all live, but they do get left up and some of them get put on YouTube, so there's lots of opportunities to catch up on stuff, and there's lots of ones I've done before, so it's worth checking out. If you've got bored and you've got an hour you want to fill, all the sessions are an hour long, so it doesn't take much more time than that to have a bit of fun, do some crafts. I've usually got lots of hacks of how to keep things tidy and ways to use old materials around the house, so you don't need anything fancy, just need a little bit of motivation, which can be the hardest thing to find, I know. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope your macrame plant hanger is going okay. Show me a photo, Lindsay. I can't wait to see, especially in those beautiful cords you've got. Just, yeah, get on the group and send a photo. And then hopefully we'll be able to share the photos on the shop page, and it'll be great. Everyone will see them and be like, oh my god, they're so nice. Obviously, if you don't want to share the photos on the shop page, I won't. So just let me know. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and have a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye-bye.